many seconds.
God damn.
We're gonna
You're
start.
recording yet? Still recording?
I'm recording. It's going like this. I never stopped recording. Right? Did you get the thing?
Oh, I see it now.
Okay, it's definitely recording. You're gonna cough. This is how you started the last podcast. You cough. Everybody, welcome to episode 49 of the Old Men Magic Podcast. Alex, it is Sunday, July 16th, 2023. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Please give us a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, hit the notification bell. You can also follow us other places. We're on Twitter. We're also now on Instagram and Threads. We got them all, Alex. We also have a Facebook, but I hate with the way Facebook is set up, so we don't post there. But it's the same company as Instagram and Threads, so follow us there. I'm not posting on Instagram, Threads, and Facebook. That's ridiculous, Alex.
Yeah, they already got enough. Or
Sometimes we post cards. Sometimes we post cats. Sometimes we post mushrooms. If Alex goes hunting. Maybe one day nudes, I don't know. Anything anybody is interested in. Alex brought up feet pics as an option the other day. If anybody thinks that's a good idea, send us a message at oldmenmagic@gmail.com. We're open to everything. Today we have lots to talk about. We have Commander Master previews that have dropped. We're just going to cover a few of those, just some select cards from the upcoming set that are also pre-modern legal. That's what interests us mostly. And we have a new deck style to learn about. We're going to discuss the origins of Turbo Xerox, which was something that I never knew about until like 2-3 weeks ago. But first, we have some follow-ups. Last week, I made a terrible, terrible error. I said when I was talking about Mana Vault that in the deck, the version of the deck, Wiseman's the deck, he never ran Mana Vaults. And then I found an interesting interview he did with Star City Games, which proved that that was totally incorrect. In the first version of the deck that Wiseman built with his buddy Matt, they used sources like Mana Vault. And the idea was, as quickly as possible at the beginning of the game, to play Soul Ring, Mana Vault, and Mind Twist to just empty your opponent's hand. So he was talking about some of the early tournaments they were playing in with this early version of the deck. And he says Matt went land, Mox, Soul Ring, Mana Vault, Mind Twist for 6. Then played a couple copies of Juggernaut on turn 2, game was over. Matt dropped a Lotus and a Mana Vault, used Mind Twist to take the guy's whole hand. Eventually Mind Twist was banned or put on the restricted list. So this was also pre-restricted list for Mind Twist. So I guess the earliest version of the deck to gain card advantage was loaded up with fast mana and 4 copies.
Obviously works great with Mind Twist.
So I was totally, totally wrong about that. I had no idea. I've talked about back in the day, I didn't net deck it because I didn't look on the internet for deck lists, but we had that book. I think it was a purple book that had lists of like influential decks at the time. And I found Wiseman's the deck, and I made a budget version of it because I got my hand on a Library of Alexandria and a moat, and I was just flying over the moat with Sarah Angels, destroying you, destroying BJ, destroying Eli. I was totally unaware of the Mana Vault Mind Twist version, and I never had Lotus Moxes. I couldn't do that. Could have Mana Vaulted up though. Segment 1. After the follow-ups, Alex, let's move on to segment 1. Segment 1 is going to be about the Commander Masters reprints. So there's all sorts of cards in Commander Masters, all sorts of cards that we don't really know about, all sorts of cards that other people are talking about.
Mm-hmm. And I've heard a lot of these names of cards, like in passing. I've seen people online talking about a lot of them. So I before, so I know the names somewhat, but not much else.
What excites us about this set, Alex? I know what excites me. What excites me are the pre-modern legal cards that might be reprinted in this master set. And there were a few of them. I'm just scrolling around here. Sky Shroud Claim is one of them. 3 colorless, 1 green sorcery. Search your library for up to 2 forest cards, then put them on the battlefield, then shuffle. This could get me my Taiga and my Savannah and my commander deck that I'm building. I don't know what the price is on Sky Shroud Claim right now. I don't think this is a pricey card. Let me pull this up real quick.
I don't remember it being pricey.
I think it's fairly cheap. Nemesis.
Oh,
$3.15. This is the OG. So affordable already. Sky Shroud Claim. Something I considered for my commander deck. Haven't put it in yet. Don't know if I will. So that caught my eye. That's not really going to affect my ability to pick up that card, though. It's already, like I said, under $5. Don't have a lot of money, but I can afford a Sky Shroud Claim. Thrain Dynamo. This is a pre-modern legal card. I've picked up one of these so far since we got back into the game. 4 colorless, tap to add 3 colorless to your mana pool. It's great for ramping out high casting cost artifacts in pre-modern mud decks. So that was an interesting one to see. Not a particularly pricey card to begin with. I like to look up the prices because
I have to pick some up.
The thing that excites me most about these reprints is to see the prices collapse. So then I could pick them up afterwards. As we saw last week when we were revisiting some of the Dominaria Remastered reprints. I mean, a lot of those cards dropped 50% after about 6 months. Thrain Dynamo. I believe this is currently like a $5 card. I think it's been reprinted a lot already too.
Correct, also.
It just gets a ton of play, so it stays at $5. Goes from $5 to $10. It gets reprinted. It goes back down to $5. It isn't reprinted for a couple of years. It goes up to $7.50 or $10. Good for ramp.
Yeah, I could definitely find a deck that would be good in. Decks that not even just artifacts, but if you have a lot of like 3 colorless, 1 color, like 4 casting cost type cards in your deck, like or things that have activation costs that are high. There's a lot of artifacts with like high activation costs that are good.
Scrolling down a little further, I see Evacuation and I see Land Tax.
We just talked about Evacuation.
We did. 3 colorless, 2 blue, instant, return all creatures to their owner's hand. Land Tax. This was very exciting. Land Tax, 1 colorless enchantment. Sorry, 1 white enchantment. Why did I say 1 colorless? At the beginning of your upkeep, if an opponent controls more lands than you, you may search your library for up to 3 basic land cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle. I was excited about this because I was attempting to acquire a playset of land taxes to build some pre-modern decks, because land tax was dominating in pre-modern along with Mox Diamond, Scroll Rack, a few other things. Looks like I don't have to worry about picking up that 3rd land tax any longer, Alex. And looks like I don't have to worry about picking up any of those Mox Diamonds, which is great for me because they're $500, because land tax was just banned in pre-modern. I was excited to see this because I was like, oh, I wonder if maybe this reprint will drop the prices at all, because pre-modern does allow new art reprints. They're not one of these snobby old school formats that just require everybody to play with original printings of cards. It's a pretty democratic, I think, format, at least for old school environments. But 2 things to say about that. I don't know if reprinting of land tax and Commander Masters would even affect the price of the Legends printing. I'm not sure. It's always hard for me to figure that out. So it's hard for me to know how to think about that or to make predictions when it comes to those old 4 Horsemen sets, because they're already relatively small print runs. So like even if there's a big reprint of an older card from Legends that's popular, you still might have enough demand in the market for the original printing from the people who like to play old school formats, that a reprint might not affect it all that much. But the current Legends version is about, $70 to $80. This was also printed in what?
To affect it too much.
Yeah. This was also
It's
printed
uncommon too.
4th or 5th edition? 4th edition. So this one might drop more.
Yeah, I could see that one dropping a little more than the Legends one. Yeah, I don't know. I think the Legends one would hold its value. But now we have to consider the fact that the banning in pre-modern is also going to affect the price.
I know. It's hard for me to predict how much that will affect prices too, because I don't even know how many people play pre-mod.
True, yeah.
Compared to people who are playing like vintage or legacy or like 93, 94. I don't know. We'll see, I guess. We'll see if it drops in half. If it drops in half, I might just pick up the 4th one just in case for the day when it becomes unbanned again. Because it was banned already.
I mean, you can still play it in like an older format and,
Still old school. Still 93, 94 formats. What else do we got here as far as reprints that are interesting to us are concerned? Chainer Dementia Master. I like this card. This was literally just reprinted and Dominaria Remastered. I don't know why they're constantly printing this card.
I mean, maybe it's just because they need something to help the meta of that set. You know what I mean?
That might be part of it.
Something to fill a niche, but
I think they added some cards to this master set for draft purposes, but then I think there are a lot of people talking about who cares about what for masters sets. You don't have to make everything draft friendly. Just make the master sets full of bangers that people want reprints of and forget about whether or not it's draft friendly.
Yeah, especially if it's for a master set, I can understand them leaning away from like the draft aspect of it.
Fellwar Stone's back, but Fellwar Stone's been back many times. And even the dark copy is not that expensive. Here's where we get into the meat of Commander Masters for this guy. The medallions.
Yeah.
Pearl Medallion, Emerald Medallion, the other medallions.
I love this news.
Sapphire Medallion. Ever since we've come back into Magic, Alex, I feel like every other episode we're complaining about how we can't believe that the medallions haven't been reprinted since Tempest, and they're $25 to $50. How are they not reprinting these things? You'd think these would be things that are reprinted fairly frequently, but they didn't do it. Now they're doing it. There was talk about maybe allied Fetchlands and medallions appearing in Commander Masters. We have the medallions. Damn it.
Do we know how many more days of spoilers there are for this?
I clicked on Mox Pearl. I don't. I'm not sure if it's over, if it's close to being over. MTG stocks has consistently been the slowest site for me when we've been recording lately.
Oh, Mox Pearl.
Why don't they have me in mind specifically in my podcasting requirements when they're developing their site? Mox, I want to pull up the medallions, and I keep pulling up all of the Moxes.
I wonder why.
Pearl Medallion. I said just a moment ago that it hasn't been. Are you serious? Did I click demonic tutor portals? How did that even happen?
I don't know what you're doing. I don't know.
It's right here. Pearl Medallion. Click. I said just a moment ago that the medallions haven't been reprinted since Tempest, and I want to confirm that that's the case, and I'm not saying something incorrect. I'm saying something totally incorrect. They haven't been reprinted since 2014. So what Tempest was late 90s, 98, something like that. And then it went like 15, 16 years between printings until Commander 2014, and now it's gone 10 years since reprinting.
So I'm looking at the price chart now going back at like 2014. And I know we've talked before about like they might just not have good data from back then, probably don't. But it doesn't look like there was any effect on. Well, so that's a stupid thing to say, I guess, because I mean, there wouldn't be much of an effect on the price anyways, because it was only $10 back then.
Well, it was 7. We're looking at just the pearl.
Yeah, I was looking at the sapphire on my screen, but yeah.
I don't know when in the year the Commander Masters, sorry, not the Masters, the Commander set was released. It would be that shield. Does this shield show up here? That same symbol doesn't show up here anywhere. So I don't know if it was in the summer or not, but we did see a 50% price drop from 2014 prices to 2015. It took a long time.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, the sapphire graph does look the same too. It dips that as a real long, slow dip there too. So okay.
So I'm hoping for another 50% price drop here. Maybe I'm going to wait 6 months, dip my hands in a little bit, pick up a medallion here and there.
Yeah, I'd really like
a medallion. Pick up an
less.
emerald medallion. Pick up a sapphire medallion. Pick up a port medallion. Pearl medallion, Alex. 6 months price target on MTG stocks. Current market price is 37.23. I want you to give a 6-month price prediction, market price down to the penny. Go.
Down to the penny.
Down to the penny.
Medallion.
Pearl medallion.
Let's see. 1994.
1994, says Alex. I say 1847. We'll see what happens. The medallion reprinted. Excited about that. That's what I'm most excited about so far out of the cards we've seen.
Yeah.
Soul Ring, excited about this. Already the most printed card in Magic the Gathering. Also a card, for some reason, people say you're not supposed to play in Commander unless you're playing competitive Commander. That's strange to me. Jet Medallion. I said Charcoal Medallion maybe a second ago.
Did you?
I'm not sure if I said that or if I just thought it and decided not to say it because I couldn't remember if it was called Charcoal Medallion or not. There is a charcoal something from Mirage.
Yeah, in the Mirage cycle, the what the heck are those called?
Whatever that Mana Rock cycle is.
Yeah.
They've reprinted Forest, Mountain, and Swamp, and Island and Plains again. That is exciting. What else do we have here, Alex? There's a few others that I wanted to touch upon. I brought up Chainer Dementia Master very briefly. We had the announcement of Hannah Ship's Navigator. 1 colorless, 1 white, 1 blue, 1/2. Legendary creature. Pay a colorless, a white, a blue, and tap to return target artifact or enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand. Hannah Ship's Navigator is a card that I definitely want to pick up, but it was already cheap in its original printing. I think Invasion, potentially. So I wasn't super excited. Well, I like the card a lot. I wasn't super excited to see it in Commander Masters. Again, my biggest hope for Commander Masters is they will reprint certain things that are way too expensive, in my opinion. So hopefully the price will drop and it'll become more affordable. Here we had another good one, Alex. Grave Pact. 1 colorless, 3 black, enchantment. Whenever a creature you control dies, each other player sacrifices a creature. I love that card. I have 0 Grave Pacts because it's quite pricey at the moment. And before I ever buy one, I want it to at least half because I don't have an immediate use for it. But if they were affordable, I could definitely find a use for it. A lot of reprints, despite that fact, currently at $26.33.
Yeah.
So this is a card that sees a ton of play, apparently.
So there's a couple different arts for this one, and I just want to give my strong opinion. The 8th edition art is not very desirable to me. The Stronghold one is cool, and it is the only one with that art.
Oh, okay.
I do like the art in the first Commander set. I don't know if you can. Yeah, sorry, you're going slow.
It's yeah. MTG Stocks is not cooperating today. In the first Commander set, that
one.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, with the black border. And they used that art again for 9th edition and 10th edition. But I think that's a pretty cool looking art.
I still, I'm partial to the old frame.
Yeah, and then there's the Commander Masters Extras, which is an extended art or borderless. Dang it! But that one looks pretty good.
There you go.
I like that more than the regular Commander Masters one. That one doesn't blow me away.
Yeah, I like these treatments in general.
Yeah, that's a sharp looking card.
Whenever it loads, if it loads. MTG stocks are killing me, man. Borderless. Grave Pact. Oh, geez. That is good. We can zoom in, zoom out, zoom in.
Spooky eye.
What else do we got here, Alex? So Grave Pact I was excited about that. I was excited about the medallions and Grave Pact.
I'd like to see that come down below $20 too.
Price prediction for Grave Pact, 6 months.
Stronghold?
Yes.
14.89.
I say 12.42.
I hope you're right.
6 month price prediction. These are very divisive, the profile variants.
Yeah, that's supposed to be like, one of the things for this set is to have like these profiles. And I think they did it with the Dragon.
They did.
It's a big sideways profile dragon face. I don't like them super much.
They're all right.
They're okay, but I don't think I'd really go out of my way for that over,
Not pre-modern legal, but doubling season, a card that you and I talked about recently. We both found this and we're like, holy smokes.
That's a significant reprint.
4 colorless, 1 green enchantment. Doubles all your tokens pretty much for everything, right? Anything that generates tokens, it creates 2 tokens instead. And same with counters. If an effect will put 1 or more counters on a permanent, it puts twice that many counters instead. And I believe this is a rather expensive card. So
I was going to say, it is.
Some people are excited about
over $100 for
geez.
Some of the printings, some of the special printings. It looks like Double Masters is 80. Modern Masters is 80 for doubling season.
Ravnica, $85. So some people will be happy about that.
Right up above there, Toxic Deluge. That might be I think that's worth noting because it was just printed in Lord of the Rings.
Oh, okay.
Actually, it was in the Commander Lord of the Rings. So I guess, probably a smaller run than the main set.
Was it unique to Lord of the Rings? Is that its first printing or was it?
No.
Okay.
Its first printing was here. Maybe Commander 2013.
2 colorless, 1 black. I don't know this card. Sorcery. As an additional cost to cast this spell, pay X life. All creatures get -X until end of turn. Okay. That's not a bad trade at all, man. Not a bad trade at all.
No, it's good. Yeah, the Lord of the Rings one is like a vision of the Shire with like acid rain and stuff, and the hobbits are like running away.
Ashnod's Altar is a good reprint.
Yeah.
3 colorless artifact, sacrifice a creature, add 2 colorless. This is a card that was not expensive back in the day and something that I was surprised to see was quite pricey in pretty much all printings when we got back into the game in 2021.
Yeah, because I have I don't know what I have, a Chronicles one or something. And I was like, oh, it's worth a couple dollars.
This is not Nahab the Eternal.
Oh, he's kind of cool looking.
I mean, some of the profile art looks really great.
That one looks good in the profile, yeah.
So, I mean, I could maybe see myself picking up and running select profile cards.
I feel like it would fit some of the named, the legends and stuff from the really older sets, like some of the Weatherlight people or old legends.
The Altar in 6th edition was up above $10 when we started. It has already pretty much halved in price in early 2023. What the reason is for that, I can't remember. Was this? Oh,
Brothers
this is
War?
another. Yes, it's another thing that was just reprinted in Brothers War. And now the price will take another hit. Did the Antiquities price drop at all after the Brothers War printing?
Good question.
And
Because I
will it
like
drop?
the Antiquities one.
So
Yeah, it looks
I-
like it. Yeah, it's
What is
been
happening?
dropping. Yeah, because I'd really like to get an Antiquities one.
Right now, MTG Stocks is saying 31.84, so it's probably available for like upper to mid 20s on TCG Player. And yeah, it did take quite a big drop, 25% drop. Come down more, baby. Come down more. I want you for $10. I want you light play for 10 to 12. But that was about it for the printings that excited me so far.
I know
There was
Smothering Tithe and Great Henge are also like cards that were just printed recently.
Okay.
Great Henge was in Lord of the Rings.
Demonic Tutor.
Oh yeah,
This
Demonic Tutor.
is the last one I'll highlight. Search your library for a card, put that card in your hand, then shuffle. The Tutor is back, baby. The Tutor is back. Not reprinted that often. What was the last printing of Demonic Tutor? You can't get the great art anymore with the guy with the demon with the pentagram in his forehead. They done away with that one since revised.
It was in Strixhaven
Okay.
and Ultimate Masters. I don't know what year that was.
The ultimate. Strixhaven and Ultimate Masters. The current printing has the same art as the Ultimate Masters too. Nothing beats this guy,
Yeah.
especially in black border, which I'll never have. I'll never have a black border. It's sad, man. Anything in particular caught your eye that I haven't mentioned so far?
I don't think so. I think I mentioned one or two. I was going to mention Doubling Season maybe, but I think we covered them all. Everything else was like modern cards that I didn't know too well. Oh, Bribery.
I missed that one. I was just going to say, I was scanning down. I forgot to mention that one. Bribery was one I was excited about too. So this is originally a Mercadian Mask card. 3 colorless, 2 blue, sorcery, search target opponent's library for a creature card. Put that card onto the battlefield under your control. Then that player shuffles. So that's great. It's a control magic that you can steal straight out of their deck. You don't have to wait
it's
for
so
them to
good.
play.
Just rob their deck of something. Amazing.
Same casting cost as a desertion too. For desertion, you have to wait for them to play it and then counter the creature spell, and then you get it. This you just go straight into their deck. You get to dig through their deck too, which was a huge deal back in Ice Age. Jester's Mask came out.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that was a fairly new. That was a new mechanic. Like, maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe there was something before, but
I don't know of anything before that. No, there's nothing coming to mind right now.
No. Such a fun mechanic for the person doing it.
This guy's going to get even cheaper. I'm excited about that. It was up to $30, and they've come back. What happened? I was just going to say they did back-to-back reprints. Did they just do a reprint of this? No. This just plummeted for no specific reason. Late 2022. Bribery's been taking a major hit. This is strange, Alex.
Huh. I mean,
$30 to almost 10 to about $10 for no apparent reason. Everybody who just decided to speculate on Mercadian Masks in 2021 came to their senses and was like, what am I doing? They just started selling all the stuff they just bought a year prior. I don't know. But yes, I am excited about this one. I do like the old Genie art much better. So when this guy gets a little bit cheaper, I will be picking up the Mercadian Mask versions, not the Commander Masters versions. We're going to move on to the next segment. That's enough Commander Masters. I do got to figure out if there's more to come. Maybe the Fetchlands will come. I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I'd like to know if they typically, like, if there's precedent for them saving like real big stuff for the last day of reveals or what. So I kind of feel like they did that with the last set. People were kind of waiting for some stuff, and they were like, oh, this isn't so good so far. Maybe it was Double Masters, and and then like towards the end,
Double
they
masters.
unveiled a bunch more stuff.
I do kind of remember that with Double Masters 2. That was when we were just getting back in and just barely starting to pay
I
attention.
think that's
to
what
stuff.
it was. Yeah.
There does seem to be a lot of fury about the price point of this set. So maybe there's some more stuff coming. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd really like to see like allied Fetchlands in it to justify the amount of money.
I have no idea how much it costs because it doesn't matter to me either way. Because I'm not.
Me either. I just know
packs.
it's expensive.
Yeah. You know what? Since we've been talking about Magic again, you know, there's so much product now, and a lot of really high priced product, and people from Wizards, people outside of Wizards, they would use the phrase sometimes, you know, it's just not for you. We make a lot of different products. Not every product is going to be for everybody. It's not for you, maybe. And I thought that was kind of like rude and dismissive when I first heard it. And then people tend to use it online too, like in a joking manner. Like if somebody,
it's kind of a rude way to say it.
Well, they don't say it exactly in that manner, but people online especially use the phrase because in a joking way when they're talking about, you know, cases in which they feel disrespected by Hasbro or Wizards that goes, oh, it's not for you. It's not for you. Somebody will bring up a reasonable complaint maybe about a product, and they'll just get a lot of, sarcastic responses. It's not for you. But the longer I've been back in the game, and the more I've been finding, you know, things in Magic that I can enjoy, I'm kind of starting to think that, like, I'm kind of starting to agree with it. I'm seeing things now. Maybe I'm being gaslit or something, but I'm seeing things now and I'm just like, it's not for me. There's just so much.
I agree. I think it's kind of, I mean, at least in light of like how much they're printing, you kind of have to take that mentality, whether you want to or not, which might aggravate some people. But I already was of that mentality just because, you know, I'm not a modern player. Yeah. So it's okay. It's easy for me to be kind of like, a lot of this stuff is not for me. I'm just not interested in it. But I think everyone has their specific, you know, kind of niche that they're into as far as Magic goes. Even modern players, like, there's going to be some things that appeal to them and some that don't. So it's, you know, it's okay to not buy some of it. It's
been around for so long, and there are so many not only formats created by Wizards but fan created formats that you can really,
you can play all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I really think everybody out there who's playing Magic, who might be angry about the amount of product that's coming out or the price points of the product, it really is a good idea just to pick a non-rotating format and kind of make it your thing. And it doesn't even have to be a big non-rotating format. It could just be something like your friend group comes up with, and just focus on that. Just don't worry about a lot.
That's what you're going to be playing the most anyways, is like what your friend group plays with.
Yeah. Anyways, next topic, Alex. I want to talk about a deck called Turbo Xerox. So this was really a groundbreaking deck, and it was the beginning of a style of deck that I've brought up a number of different times on this podcast, but I didn't really understand it or really know what to call it. There would just be various times we were scanning deck lists and talking about things, and I'd be like, you know, those cards that are like full of cantrips and like library manipulation spells, those decks that are lots of cantrips, lots of library manipulation spells. I would see that in different shells. Didn't really know what to make of it. I would just say, I never really played decks like this. You see them a lot packed into primarily combo decks because they can help you sort through your deck and assemble your combo. But they're not limited to combo style decks. They're really good for mana fixing, which I think makes them useful in multicolored mid-range decks, especially in formats like pre-modern where you don't have duels. You don't always have necessarily the best mana base. You don't have the enemy fetch lands available to you either. So if you're running a 3-color deck with potentially 3-colored cards in them, if you have cards like this, these cantrips, these library manipulation spells to help you get the right colored mana in the early turns, it can really make your deck a lot smoother, function a lot smoother. I've been doing some research. I want to talk about the origin of these type of decks, these decks with lots of cantrips, lots of library manipulation spells, and discuss some of the theory behind. Instead of saying cantrips and library manipulation spells all over and over again, I'm going to say can-man spells, Alex. Can-man spells. So people who know what they're talking about call these decks Xerox or Turbo Xerox decks.
Okay.
And they have their origin in a Type 2 deck that was developed by this guy right here, Alan Comer, in 1997. And he played it in a Southern California regionals tournament where it finished second place. And when I first heard, I've heard people say Xerox deck, but I didn't know what that meant at all. Just very naively, I thought it would be a deck that was full of like copy artifacts. I figured it was like an artifact-based deck full of copy artifacts or creature clones, doppelgangers, etc. But the deck is called Xerox not because it actually has cards or spells that copy other spells. It's because the build apparently was so innovative at the time that it spread like crazy. It was copied by so many people across multiple formats that they just started calling it Xerox and then Turbo Xerox. Right here in this article, I'm looking at an article from quietspeculation.com called Opting in Modern Cantrips. They mentioned it's the first true net deck. And it had a major innovation. The major innovation was to replace lands with cheap cantrips. So for every 2 cheap cantrips in a deck, its land count can be reduced by 1.
Okay.
I love the way they state it here because I've seen this exact rule stated in message board posts that I read, multiple articles that I read. Almost everybody says the general rule is for every 4 1 or 2 casting cost can-man cards, cantrips, or library manipulation cards, you can remove 2 lands from your deck. And I see this stated over and over again. I'm like, why is everybody saying for every 4 you can remove 2 when they could just say for every 2 you can remove 1? And the article of the author of this article did it. So I congratulate this person. I'm going to scan up to the top just to see who this is. Because I'm like, what is going on? Good job, Jordan. Jordan Boisvert. He reduced 4 over 2 to 2 over 1. That's genius. Everybody's writing for
hey guys,
it's driving me crazy. Maybe there's a reason everybody writes it like that. And I'm just not big brained enough to figure that out.
Yeah, I was trying to think of it like if there's sort of like a initial barrier for entry, like you want to do it with a minimum of, 4 or 2, but that's still a weird way to say it.
It is possible that it's like, hey, if you're going to do this, don't do it unless you're going to put in at least 4 can-man cards.
But then, even then, if you think about it, all you're doing is taking out 1 land. If you do it with 2, you're just taking out 1 land. So, like, I can't imagine that would have some like disastrous effect.
Honestly, I think what happened is somebody wrote it somewhere as for every 4 spells, you take out 2 lands, and then everybody just repeated that instead of reducing it to 2.
Someone was looking at like like a blocked out deck where things were put in like chunks of 4 or whatever, and they just phrased it that way, and then everyone else copied it. So
what the author of this article, Jordan, says is Alan Comer actually single-handedly invented the concept of using cheap cantrips to fix your mana. In fact, Turbo Xerox is the fundamental strategy that most blue legacy decks are built on. What Comer realized was that even with just 17 islands and 4 portents, he had about an 85% chance of having 2 islands by turn 2 on the play, almost 90% on the draw. This also doesn't take into consideration mulligans, which easily pushes him into the mid-90s. So when I build decks, I hate getting mana screwed. So if I build a 60-card deck, and I was doing this back in early high school, I started doing it in middle school, like when we started playing 13. I started with 24 lands. I would start with more than enough land every time. And then playing the deck, depending on the deck that I was working on, I would potentially reduce from there.
Really? Huh. I didn't know that.
24 lands is what I built. Maybe 23, 24. I always wanted to have more than 20. That might not have, maybe I didn't start that till later, till the deck entered my repertoire. But I never built a deck with 17 lands. I don't know that I ever built a deck with under 20 lands because I hated getting manuscript. But this was the innovation.
Yeah, I think sometimes I would go just barely under 20, like 19, if I felt like I had a lot of like Soul Ring, Mana Elf kind of stuff to like act as land too. I might just go.
Maybe in the cases, yeah.
I never would have gone down to 17 or less ever.
I will cut it down in cases where you have 4 Llanowar Elves, 4 birds, stuff like that, potentially. Portent. I think Portent first came out in Ice Age, right? I'm going to look this up real quick.
Yeah.
MTG Stocks is not cooperating with me today, so I'm transitioning to Scryfall. There you go, Scryfall. You got my business. Portent. Ice Age. Yeah, that's when it started. So I don't think these decks were really an option until Ice Age hit. I
think Ice Age was the first set that had cantrips in it.
It might have been.
It's at least more than one or something.
At least this is where the 1 casting cost blue spells that allowed you to do things like this were first printed. Other than our Ancestral Recall, which was better. But Ice Age had Portent and a Brainstorm.
Also, Ray of Erasure.
I don't remember that.
Remember that one?
No.
It has like a Minotaur-looking horn guy, and he's getting hit with a ray. You make someone mill a card, and then you draw a card.
Oh. 1 blue instant. Target player takes the top card of his or her library and puts it in his or her graveyard. Anti-Mirage Tutor tech.
Yeah, there you go. That's good for that. I didn't think about that. Since coming back to the game, I looked, saw this card again and started thinking that I might want to put it in like stealing opponent's graveyard creature deck. Animate dead.
Oh yeah,
this might be nice.
This could also be a Turbo Xerox mirror match tech.
Oh, okay.
Because if your opponent has Portent, Foreshadow, Brainstorm, whatever, to sort their deck the way they want, you Ray of Erasure, remove the top card. They just set it up to give them the card they wanted. You get rid of that and you draw a card. Anyways.
Yeah, I always thought that was kind of a cool card. I wonder what it's rated at.
Gatherer?
Yeah, I'm looking.
Let's pull that up. We're going on a Ray of Erasure tangent.
2.897, not so hot.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, really.
They say now there's Thought Scour. 1 blue, target player mills 2 cards, draw a card, and you do it instantly instead of on the next upkeep. So Thought Scour has replaced Ray of Erasure. Okay. We just learned. Thought Scour is from, they don't put the sets in order here, so I don't know which the first one is, but it was in Dark Ascension, I think.
It's a strictly better Thought Scour, a strictly better Ray of Erasure. I'm going to pull something up right now. I found this. So MTG Goldfish, somebody posted the Turbo Xerox deck to MTG Goldfish, and they gave a little deck primer description down here, whoever posted this. And I'm going to read some of this. Instead of building a deck with a large mana base, Comer built a deck with an intentionally small mana base. Why? I don't know. That's the opposite of what I would do. I started with 24. I cut down. If a deck has fewer lands, it can generate virtual card advantage over the course of the game by drawing relevant spells at a greater statistical frequency than the opponent. So this makes sense. You put in spells you want.
It's the same with, all the cards that let you, shrink your deck by taking land out of it to increase your chances of getting non-land later. Because late in the game, you don't want to pull land most of the time.
When the opponent is more likely on a relative basis to draw lands and mana sources. So exactly. This is the downside of having a high land count in your deck. Later in the game, you're more likely to draw lands and mana sources when you'd rather have spells. The pro is you're more likely to hit your early land drops and you won't have to worry about getting behind. This is the opposite of Wiseman's view of a mana base, which emphasized the importance of making land drops in order to avoid discarding counter magic prior to a counter war. So this is how I would build decks, probably because I read about Weissman's deck and probably read some of the stuff that I don't quite remember back when I was 14 or 15. And I started building a high land count mana base because I wanted to have the mana. And then what do you do? What you do then in those decks to at least partially get around the downside of drawing too much land later in the game is you put card advantage cards, card draw cards into your deck. So Jam Day Tome to draw, you have lots of mana because your deck is full of mana. You have Jam Day Tome, you can dump 4 into that, draw an extra card. Put Disrupting Scepters to make your opponent discard. So you put card advantage cards into these high land count decks. Comer went the opposite way. How would Comer avoid being mana screwed or falling into Wiseman's trap? To facilitate the low count, included a high density of blue draw spells and efficient cantrips. Comer used Portent, Impulse, and Foreshadow in the early game to find lands and smooth his draws. So that's the most important thing when you're playing these kind of decks. Early on, you want to use these cards not necessarily to pull other spells or creatures. The most important thing to do when you play these cards, if I'm understanding this correctly, is to use them to make sure you hit your early land drops. You want to get that land down. Turns 1, 2, and 3, you have to hit your land drops, Alex. It's critical. He says it right here. That way he could, for example, keep a 1 or 2 land hand and still be confident that he could find more lands quickly. As Comer explained, the important thing to remember with this deck is that early on you must, and then somebody screwed this in typing and they left out the rest of that quote. But the must is you must hit your early land drops. I'm sure that's what it is. So when did Turbo Xerox come up? I like to do this when we go through these old decks, Alex. I like to pull up the standard timeline on MTG Wiki. In 1997, the Southern California Regionals, what card pool did Comer have available to him? It was Ice Age, Homelands, Alliance, 5th edition, Mirage, Visions, Weatherlight.
Okay.
Zeranorm was banned. Amulet of Quaz and Temerian Fiends returned to the ban list. I don't know. Amulet of Quaz is a anti-card, right?
I thought it was, but I might be wrong now.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, it is.
That was the card pool he was dealing with. I don't know why Amulet of Quaz was. Anti-cards were like always on the official tournament ban list when we were playing, right? I mean,
yeah, why would it have gone off and then come back on? That's weird.
It's weird. Temerian Fiends, I remember the name, but I don't remember what it
I remember this.
Does.
It's banned in something now. I think it's banned in pre-modern. Oh, it's an anti-card. Never mind.
Oh, okay.
I remember seeing it on ban lists, but yeah, I forgot that it was anti.
Remove it from your deck before if not playing for anti.
This is weird art. Especially the guy on the left.
He's a furry.
He looks kind of like a angry wombat with antlers.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. But anyways, here's the deck that Comer put together. Let me pull this deck up. Pull this up in the Old Man Magic Mox field. I got this loaded up. We're going to go through
It's
it very
turbo
briefly.
time.
Alan Comer, Turbo Xerox, 1997, Southern California Regionals. What do I want to point out here? I'm going to skim past the creatures, the sorceries, and the instants real quick. Go straight to the lands. 17 lands, light on lands, as was described. But 12 cantrips or library manipulation cards. So what do you have here? You have 4 Portent, Portent is 1 blue sorcery. Look at the top 3 cards of target player's library, yours or your opponent's. And if you're using these the way you should early in the game, you would be using it on yourself to find those lands.
Yeah, for this deck, yeah.
Then either shuffle that library or put those 3 cards on top of the library in any order. Draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. So make sure you get your land set up and you get to draw it at the next upkeep. 4 Foreshadow, a card that I didn't remember. From Visions, it's an instant. 1 colorless, 1 blue, name a card. Put the top card from target opponent's library into his or her graveyard. If that card is the one named, draw a card. You also draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. So this is strange.
So, like, if you memory lapse them, you counter their spell and it goes onto their library, then you can foreshadow to name that card because you know what it's going to be. Or also, if they tutor, you can name the card if it's a tutor where they have to show it to you, right?
Or I just mentioned with Portent, you would want to do it yourself to find your land. But
you reorganize their top 3.
If you have a Portent in your hand and a Foreshadow in your hand, you can do Portent followed by Foreshadow.
Yeah, okay.
Not bad.
I like that combo. I have Foreshadows. I recognize the art because I have them in my box with like some other stuff that I, for a long time, had been wanting to use in a deck. But I was always kind of like, what should I do with this?
You can build this exact deck.
Yeah. This would be a cheap deck to build too, for the most part. I mean, Force of Will's in it, but you could even make a budget version of this without that.
Well, apparently, not only was the deck like incredibly innovative, but the other like majorly notable thing about it at the time, it was incredibly competitive, doing really well. It has 0 rares in it.
Oh, neat.
He built a deck with 0 rares.
I was going to ask if it was straight blue a minute ago when we were talking about it, because I forget why now. One of the cards I was looking at that we mentioned already, I was wondering how many land colors they were working with, since they have the lower land base. I was wondering how many colors they were using. That's what it was.
This one goes mono.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, lean into that. If you want to have a smaller land base, really, you've got to keep it 1 or 2 colors, probably.
Yeah. Impulse. 1 colorless, 1 blue instant. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. Put 1 of them into your hand, the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. And then also, one you just mentioned, memory lapse. 1 colorless, 1 blue interrupt. Counter target spell. Put that spell on top of its owner's library. So another great thing to combo Foreshadow. So those are the 12 cantrips or library manipulation cards. What else is here? Mono blue. You're going to be full of counters. 4 counter spells, 4 power sinks, 4 dissipates, which is, if you don't remember, 1 colorless, 2 blue, counter target spell, then remove that spell from the game. So it's essentially a higher casting cost counter spell. And then, of course, mono blue in this era, with these sets available, you're going to load up on Force of Will. He has 4 Forces of Will. Then how do you actually kill somebody with this deck?
Question.
Creatures.
Are there any other cards? Are all the cards on the screen?
Well, so before I go to the creatures, I'll go to the enchantment. 1 enchantment, 1 color or 1 copy of Dream Tides, 2 colorless, 2 blue enchantment. Creatures do not untap during their controller's untap phase. Each non-green creature's controller may pay an additional 2 colorless during his or her upkeep to untap that creature. Okay. I had forgotten about this, but it's an incredibly cheap card from Visions, and I'm like, this isn't a bad card at all. And
is this a reserve list card? I feel like it is. It's like cheap.
I don't think it is. I think it's a card they didn't reprint because they put out these cards that are just like not fun to play with, and they just don't reprint them.
Yeah.
When I say not fun to play with, it's like some people they're not fun for people who hate the blue-white or the blue control routes. If you hate playing against stasis decks, you're not going to want to play against somebody with Dream Tides either.
Right.
Let's pull it up. Is it on the reserve list?
No, it is not.
Okay, I didn't think so.
No.
it's pretty cheap right now because after I saw this deck, I was like, oh, I think I'd like to try to play with this in some pre-modern blue-white control shells. I picked up 4 copies because I think they were like 25 cents a piece or something. He has this card. Okay, so we have the counter spells, 16 of them, essentially. The 12 library manipulation cantrip cards, 1 enchantment to slow down creatures.
All I saw was Mana War.
Creatures don't untap. Each non-green creatures may pay 2 additional mana to untap them. And then he has his creatures. 4 Mana War, 4 Sukata Firewalkers, and 4 Waterspout Djinns.
Waterspout Djinn then probably, right?
Yeah. The Mana War I'm not surprised about at all because this is a great card in this era. It's still a great card. I love it. So of course you're going to put Mana War in, especially when you're counter heavy. If they play something, if they get a creature on the board that you really can't deal with, and you weren't able to counter it at the time, you could play your Mana War, bounce it back, maybe counter it the second time.
And then you portent and bury it 2 cards farther down.
Exactly, yeah. Sukata Firewalker. Well, no, sorry. Mana War, it puts it back in your hand. So you can't.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was thinking top of the library. Yeah, my bad.
Sukata Firewalker, which is something I was surprised to see, but I can think of reasons why it might be in here. 1 colorless, 2 blue, 0/1. Cannot be the target of red spells or effects. Tap, deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Prodigal Sorcerer. The only way he's going to kill people are with Mana Wars, Sukata Firewalkers, Waterspout Djinns. It seems like a very slow way to potentially kill people. I'm just thinking in the meta, maybe it's always, I mean, pretty much in every meta, it's good to have something that can survive a lightning bolt or whatever the lightning bolt equivalent is at the time.
Yeah.
So maybe this is in here just to survive lightning bolts and earthquakes, and then you could just sit here and counter things.
Yeah, if everything else goes wrong, you could just finish them off by pinging them.
You can ping them.
Yeah.
Strange combo, though, with the Dream Tides, because this guy won't untap unless you play 2 blue for him every turn.
Yeah, true.
And you're playing a deck that only has 17 lands, so strange. Waterspout Djinn, I'm assuming this was the main finisher. It's
that, and I mean, even having 2 or 3 Mana Wars down too. If they're, they have no creatures, you've locked them down. You can,
you can
do a decent chunk. But yeah, the Waterspout Djinn seems to be the big guy.
2 colorless, 2 blue, 4/4 flying. During your upkeep, return an untapped island you control to owner's hand, or bury Waterspout Djinn. Again, I don't love cards that return my land to my hand. Also, you're playing a deck that only has 17 land in it. So you don't have you don't have excess land to return, but obviously it does the job. And again, he didn't have an unlimited card pool to choose from. He probably wanted to find something that's a fairly big body, that's a fairly low casting cost. You're not going to want to go with a 6 casting cost card because, again, you're running so few lands in your deck. So maybe the thought is, I'm not going to go above 4 casting costs. What's the best creature that I can find? What's the best big body that I could find for that casting cost in this current environment? And maybe it is the Waterspout Djinn. It also has some invasion because it can fly, so that's nice. You can fly over block.
You wait to play it till late in the game when you have your thing going. You have them kind of like locked down, and then
So that's the Turbo Xerox deck, Alex. I like it. I want to just put it together and just pilot it, just play it from time to time, see how it works. I don't know that I'd make any changes. I can't think of what I would change at the time, or I can't at this moment. I can't think of what I would change other than maybe try to find something out there other than the Sukata Firewalker.
Look at the creatures, probably play around with them.
That's what I would do. I would see if there's anything out there better than the Firewalker.
I wonder if Dissipate is sort of like a reaction to a specific card. You know what I mean? Like if they really wanted something that could remove things from the game, because they even this going back this far, there's a lot of counter spells they could play with.
Then I guess I
Arcane
don't know.
Denial is in, right? They could be using Arcane Denial. I don't know if that
Arcane Denial is alliances. So what was
yeah,
in the
I
standard?
don't know if that
game?
hurts their strategy,
Oh.
but I would think that if you have someone locked down, having them draw more cards wouldn't really. Trying to think about that. You know what I mean? You might not mind if their hand is getting bigger if they can't do anything.
Yeah. And alliances, Arcane Denial. Remind me, do they get to draw a card no matter what it is you counter, or do they just draw
Yes,
a card?
but then you also draw a card.
Oh, okay. So if you also draw a card, it's not like you're giving them card advantage necessarily. Its controller, sorry. Its controller may draw up to 2 cards at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. You draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. Okay. This looks like Disney art. It's pretty sick.
Oh yeah, it looks like the Snow White. What's the Snow White villain's name? Some kind of queen, evil queen in Snow White.
Don't ask me about Disney.
Which?
But it looks like an evil witch, an evil Disney witch.
Or
that's my intro to
Sleeping Beauty. One of them.
That's my intro to Turbo Xerox, Alex.
That's cool. It's turbo time. I would have fun. I would. The thing about this deck is I think I might get tired of it. Like, I think it'd be fun at first and it would be good, but I'd want to start changing things in it to keep it fresh, or like maybe take a break from it. But I do like cantrips, and I want to build more decks with cantrips.
Okay. Well, I mean, you can take the innovation, the main idea. 2 Canman spells, 1 land. Two Canman spells, 1 land. Put that into any. Pick another shell to put it in.
That's true. Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to see if I can use that to smooth out the mana base for a blue, white, red deck that I've been fiddling with. And the main issue is it has bad mana.
Oh, does it have that electricity angel in it?
I just want to play Lightning Angel. That's it. And she's only 4 casting costs, and I want to play her on curve. And she's 1 colorless, 1 white, 1 blue, 1 red, and there's no dual lands. The deck could be terrible, but if I can consistently play Lightning Angel on turn 4, I'm happy. And then she gets lightning bolted, but I don't care.
Play your pain lands and City of Brass and stuff. You know, you're just gonna pay for it. You're gonna take damage to do it, probably.
Lightning Angel should really have immunity to lightning bolts. Like, what are we talking about here? Hold on.
It's interesting. What?
Hold on. I think it's 3/4. Now that I'm saying that, is Lightning Angel 3/4?
I think so. That sounds right.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. You just made me think of this. That
3/4. Yes. Okay.
Magic has never, not that I'm aware of, has ever used like a elemental immunity type effect. You know what I mean? Like you said, immune to lightning bolts, or just like immune to lightning, immune to fire. I guess it'd be too hard to classify certain spells as whether or not they deal fire damage. You know, you'd have to add new text to everything. But like, it's interesting that they never went in that direction. You know, they give you protection from colors, but not protection from. Yeah.
It would be easy to do it in the case of lightning bolt, but yeah, if I'm trying to come up with, because then it could still be incinerated. But you know, lightning bolt is so commonly played that just saying immunity to lightning bolt.
Oh yeah, just like to 1 spell, that would be interesting. Yeah.
And it would have to be a lightning card. It would have to be like a lightning bird, lightning angel, for instance, lightning sorcerer,
or maybe a rubber monster.
A what?
A rubber monster.
A rubber monster. A tree folk that's a rubber tree.
Yeah.
Rubber tree folk. Immunity to lightning. Anyways, that's the review. I think I was going to say something else about it, but I forgot what I was going to say at the moment. Oh, I would have fun trying to revise it for the pre-modern format. Maybe, like you said, swapping out one type of counterspell for another type of counterspell. I couldn't play Force of Will. I
love Power Sync. I've always loved it, but I get the impression people don't use it much anymore. So there's probably something you could replace Power Sync, or at least some of them with.
I still feel like it's underplayed.
Really? Because I like it. I feel that way too. I think it's
underplayed.
And it's kind of like, we've talked about this before. It's one of those cards where you make them make a decision. It's like, well, do I want my spell to go off and spend a whole bunch of extra mana to do it. You know what I mean?
But yeah, revamp this for pre-modern. Take out the cards that are banned in pre-modern, like Force of Will, and then also see if you could upgrade the creatures or certain spells to better versions and see what you could do with it. So that's it. That's the intro to Turbo Xerox. I think over the next, I don't know, couple months, we're going to have some episodes here and there where we talk more about different deck types that were kind of built off this innovation of adding cantrips, library manipulation spells, can-man spells, and removing lands. If there's nothing else you wanted to talk about, Alex, I think we move on to segment 3, the Old Men Magic Commander Corner. We build our decks. This is the part of the podcast where Alex and I talk various things Commander. We're going to learn about Commander. So far, really, this year, we've used it just to build our first ever Commander decks. We add a card, 2, 3, sometimes 4 to our decks. Our decks are coming along nicely, in my opinion.
Yours is.
My deck is called The Pump, inspired by Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 1970s documentary Pumping Iron. My commander is Jacques Levert. He makes my creatures tougher, +0, +2. Green creatures. All my creatures happen to be green. Today, Alex, I'm going to review my deck because I am going to ask the viewers for some input, see if they have any ideas for me. My deck is approaching its final form. I'm close to the total number of cards I'm allowed to have in my deck. I think I have like 6 or 7 more slots. Last week, we temporarily forgot whether or not a commander deck is supposed to have 100 or 101 cards in it. The answer is 101. Your deck is 100 cards, plus you have your commander. Unless I'm wrong.
Oh, really? I thought it was the other way around.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I thought
Okay.
we settled that.
You look it up right now.
I'm looking it up right now.
While I review my deck. I hope that I didn't get that wrong.
100. Exactly 100, including the commander.
Including the commander?
Yes.
Son of a bee.
Like I said, I think a good way to remember it is that you can buy like a box of 100 sleeves, and that's going to be a free deck. Otherwise, you need to buy 2 boxes.
You just Googled this and you confirmed it.
Yes.
Okay. Damn it. I got to cut that out. I just said 101. So 100 exactly. I have I just hit playtest on Moxfield to pull up my deck. I have 86 cards in the deck so far, which means I have 14 more slots to fill up. I want to fill it up with a lot more creatures. I currently have 29 creatures. I dream of a deck with 40 creatures in it. Alex, which creatures will those be? I have a good mix of low casting cost and high casting costs. I have my Birds of Paradise, my Elvish Herder, which can give some of my fatties that I play later trample, so I can trample over blockers. I have my Mana Elves, my Manimals, Findhorn Elves, Lanloir Elves, Quirion Elves. I have some other Sky Shroud Elf. Werebear I added recently, another Manimal, another low casting cost creature. I have some low casting cost utility creatures, like Scavenger Folk to deal with artifacts, Stampede Driver that can also give my bigger creatures later in the game trample. I put in Thornscape Apprentice because I wanted some more 1-drops. I can also pay white or red mana to give target creatures special abilities. I have Waioli Wolves, which can pump my creatures. This is one of the major themes of my deck. I play creature cards, I play spells and other creature cards that can pump creature cards when I attack. That's going to be difficult for my opponents to decide whether they can block successfully, whether they should let things through. Oh, if I let something through, is he going to pump the hell out of it with a bunch of other spells and creatures? Am I going to take way more damage than I thought? Even if I block, is he going to trample, kill my creature, and deal more damage? Who knows? I don't know. Things are going to get big fast That's the idea. Play a lot of creatures fast, make them bigger later in the game. I also want to have a lot of creature cards that generate tokens. So it's a make your creatures bigger strategy, but also a go wide strategy. That way, if you go wide, they might not be able to block everything. And then you put all your pump effects into whatever got through. So to make token creatures, I have Deranged Hermit, make Squirrel tokens. I have Kamal, Fist of Krosa. Doesn't make token creatures necessarily, but I can pay 1 green to turn a target land into a 1/1 creature until the end of turn. He also has an Overrun effect, where he gives all my creatures +3/+3 and trample. What else generates tokens that I have in here, Alex? Saber Ants can generate tokens when it gets damaged. Rith the Awakener, if this gets through, generates tokens. I have some fatties. I don't have a lot of... Oh, Hazes on Tamar generates tokens too. I forgot about that. I have some fatties. I don't have a ton of fatties yet, I don't think. Rith the Awakener's a fatty. Verdant Force is the king of the Timmy cards. Weathersea Treefolk is boltable, but it's got 5 power and trample, and it can come back. Shivan Worm, 7/7 for 5 mana. I think that's pretty good. So I'd be open.
I want to play with. I have to make some red-green deck with him in it.
I'd be open to putting some more fatties in this deck too. Phantom Neshoba is a fatty. Comes in with 7+1/+1 counters on it. If I look at my mana curve right now, I think it's pretty good. Nice line down. I got a lot of
1,
low
2,
casting
3,
cost
4, 5,
creatures.
6, 7, 8.
A lot of things I can play on curve. Turn 1, turns 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm open to putting in some bigger creatures here with higher casting costs. I'm also playing with a lot of manimals too. So I have some ramp in this deck. I don't think it's unreasonable to maybe have something in the deck that has a casting cost of even greater than 8. I don't know. But what I'm going to ask the viewers today, if anybody's made it this far in the podcast, is I have 14 more slots left in my deck. I have 29 creatures. I would like to get up to 40 creatures. I have 11 more green creatures that I need to put into this deck if I'm to reach 40. And I'm reaching an impasse. I'm not sure exactly what else to put in here. I'm open to things that are even bigger than Verdant Force, casting cost-wise. I'm also open to some more mid-range creatures. Some more in the 2, 3, 4, 5 casting cost range. I'm going to add 1 card today. If anybody has ideas, leave them in the comments. Tell me, what big fatties, what big green creatures, or what moderate casting cost utility creatures, or just cool green creatures would you want to put in a... I have to specify something. In a commander deck that's a creature horde based deck, but that is also old frame only. So it has to be an old frame card, a creature that I can get in an old frame printing. Let me know. I'm hoping I get some good ideas. In the meantime, I do have one idea for what to add. This is overlap between our decks, Alex. You have this card in your deck already. I'm adding Forgotten Ancient.
Ah,
I almost said Forgotten.
Forgotten Ancient.
Forgotten Ancient.
I mean, I can't blame you one bit. I think this guy is sweet.
Go storm it. This is a creature with a moderate casting cost, 4. It gets +1/+1 counters whenever a player plays a spell. So great for a 4-player format. And I can move any of those 1/1 counters from Forgotten Ancient to other creatures. So he gets pumped. He fits all the themes, really. Not all the themes, some of the themes. He fits the main theme of my deck. He gets pumped every time an opponent plays a spell. Anytime a player plays a spell, sorry. And I can use him to pump other guys if I want to pump other creatures at particular times. And the pump is permanent. So that's my ad for today, Alex. Forgotten Ancient. I now have 30 creatures. I did 4. 30. 10, 20, 30. I want 10 more. Now you're up, Alex.
All right. Today,
Alex's
I will.
deck.
Oh,
We got to introduce you. The name
sorry.
of your
Good.
deck. No, you go ahead. I was just trying to fill time while I hit the back button and put up your Group Mud deck. Alex's deck is named Group Mud.
My deck is a group hug turned pillow fort deck. I'm playing a 5-color defensive deck. It's enchantment heavy. It uses defensive techniques that are not necessarily lethal, kind of on purpose, because I think that will be fun. I want to gently dissuade people from attacking me. I have things that grow behind the lines while I'm defending myself and trying to get my opponents to attack each other. Today I'm going to add 2 more creatures that are enchantments but are creatures. We're going to go with Hidden Gibbons and Hidden Gorillas.
Alex is adding the hidden cards. I saw a deck, I don't know if it was yesterday or today, the top 8 at a tournament back in the early 2000s, maybe. It was called like Hidden Green or something like that. Don't remember exactly what was in it, but it was based on these hidden cards. Hidden Gorillas, you say, right?
With a U.
Oh, that makes all the difference. Have they been added? Oh, they're enchantments. That's why I can't find them in the creatures. We got our hidden gibbons. We got our hidden gorillas. And in the appropriate printings, I didn't even have to change the printing.
Right.
And
Yeah,
these
I
things,
figured these guys will synergize with my enchantment stuff. I have a couple things that, enchantress type stuff. I kind of want to get a Verduran enchantress in at this point, but I'm not sure if I'm going to do that or not yet. But yeah, they're quick. I'll get them down quick. They're definitely going to turn into the creatures. They're not flying, but I think they're nice little bodies to get out quick, and it'll maybe dissuade my opponents from playing something earlier. Maybe it'll keep them holding something in their hand. I don't know. Try it out.
not bad choices at all. I love those hidden cards, especially in Gibbons. Gibbons is great. Okay, excellent addition to Group Mud today, Alex. Excellent addition. How many cards do you have in this deck so far?
I don't know. How many do I need?
56.
I haven't added any lands yet. I need to do that so I can get a better.
Yeah, have a land day. That's what I did. That's why I'm up at
And decide on my forest art and stuff.
I think I'm up at 87 or something because I had a day where I just added lands. Because at some point, I got to a size where I'm like, okay, I got to decide how many lands I want on my deck, and then I'll just build from there.
Yeah.
You need more than 24. You need more than 17. Remember, this is a 100-card format, not a 60-card format. Okay. That's the end of segment 3, the Old Men Magic Commander Quarter for episode 49. We are approaching episode 50. Thank you, everybody who listened this far. Thank you, everybody who's listened to multiple episodes of our podcast. Thank you, everybody who has followed us on Twitter, on Instagram, on Threads, on... Is that it? Those are the 3.
Me shout out the window.
I haven't grown on Instagram at all. On Twitter at all. We haven't gotten a new follower in a very long time. I'm wondering if it's because I didn't pay for Twitter Blue. I'm wondering if it's still possible to grow on Twitter.
Muskie is keeping us down.
Now that you don't pay for Twitter Blue, I'm not sure. This is part of the reason why I started the Instagram and the Threads account. Yes, Zuckerberg is an evil billionaire, but he's a different kind of evil billionaire. And he's an evil billionaire at the moment that isn't preventing me from growing my social media profile unless I pay him $8 a month or whatever Twitter Blue costs. So, he's currently my preferred evil billionaire at the moment.
Hopefully all of this will get sorted out in the cage match.
Yes. That's never going to happen, but I hope that it does.
No,
but it's never going to.
Well,
if it did happen,
that would be sweet.
I think Elon Musk would probably die during the lead up to the fight because he'd die in training. He'd hook up with Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan would tell him about all sorts of supplements that he'd have to start injecting into his fat 50-year-old frame. And it wouldn't react well to it after like decades and decades of being just like slovenly and overweight and out of shape and never being active. And he's going to like shoot himself up with Winstrol or something, and immediately his heart's going to.
And it's going to react with his hair transplants. Dead.
Don't you dare, Alex. He's never had a hair transplant. I don't know what you're talking about. It's not on video.
It's not on video.
There's no evidence. Anyways. That's the end of episode 49. Next week is episode 50. It's fantastic. That's fantastic. That's almost a year's worth of podcasts. We got big plans for next week. No, we don't. It's just going to be the same old thing. Hope you enjoy. Talk to you later.